What if the greatest secret to pain-free aging isn't hidden in medicine, genetics, or expensive treatments, but quietly written into the daily rhythms of how some people live, move, think, and rest? So subtly that by the time they reach 70 or 80, their bodies have simply never learned the language of chronic pain. The human body is designed for motion in the same way the heart is designed for rhythm. From the earliest stages of life, every cell learns through movement. Muscles contract and release. Joints glide through their ranges, and the nervous system records these patterns as safe and natural. When this conversation between body and motion continues steadily across decades, it forms a protective foundation that quietly guards against chronic pain. Seniors who move regularly throughout life are not simply maintaining strength or flexibility. They are preserving the very language through which the brain interprets physical sensation. Inside every moving muscle, a cascade of biological signals begins to unfold. Each contraction releases tiny chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream and communicate with nearby tissues. These molecules help regulate inflammation, encourage circulation, and support the repair of microscopic wear that occurs with daily use. Over time, this creates a body that heals faster than it breaks down. When movement is consistent but not excessive, tissues remain well-nourished and resilient. Joints receive a steady supply of synovial fluid, which acts as both lubricant and nutrient carrier, maintaining smooth articulation and preventing the stiffness that often leads to discomfort. The absence of movement, however, tells a different story to the nervous system. When joints remain still for long periods, the brain begins to interpret unfamiliar motion as a potential threat. Muscles tighten to protect, connective tissues stiffen from underuse, and circulation slows. Gradually, the nervous system becomes more sensitive, interpreting ordinary sensations as warning signals. Chronic pain often begins not with injury, but with this slow shift in perception. Seniors who maintain gentle, regular motion avoid this cycle because their nervous systems never learn to fear movement. Instead, the brain receives continuous reassurance that motion is safe, predictable, and beneficial. There is also a deeper neurological effect that unfolds with lifelong activity. The brain constantly maps the body through sensory input, updating its understanding of posture, balance, and position in space. This internal map, sometimes called body awareness, remains accurate only when it is frequently refreshed through motion. Seniors who walk, stretch, or engage in light physical tasks maintain a clear and responsive neural map. When this map remains sharp, the brain coordinates movement efficiently, preventing strain and uneven pressure on joints. Inefficient movement patterns, often caused by long-term inactivity, can place subtle but persistent stress on certain tissues, eventually leading to chronic discomfort. Consistent motion distributes load evenly and keeps the body's mechanics balanced. Circulation also plays a central role in this protective effect. Blood carries oxygen, nutrients, and repair molecules to every corner of the body. Gentle activity stimulates circulation without overwhelming the system, ensuring that tissues receive what they need to maintain integrity. In seniors who remain active, even simple movements like walking or standing periodically encourage blood flow through muscles and connective tissues. This prevents the accumulation of inflammatory byproducts that can irritate nerves and contribute to pain. Over years, improved circulation becomes a quiet shield, preserving tissue health and reducing the likelihood of persistent discomfort. Equally important is the role of fascia, the connective network that surrounds and supports muscles and organs. This tissue responds directly to movement. When the body moves regularly, fascia remains hydrated and elastic, allowing muscles and joints to glide smoothly. Without movement, fascia can become stiff and adhesive, restricting motion and creating areas of tension that the brain may interpret as pain. Seniors who maintain gentle daily activity keep this connective network supple. Their bodies remain adaptable, capable of adjusting to new movements or minor stresses without triggering prolonged discomfort. Movement also influences the brain's production of natural pain-relieving chemicals. During moderate physical activity, the body releases endorphins and other neurotransmitters that regulate mood and perception. These substances do more than create a temporary sense of well-being. They train the nervous system to associate movement with safety and comfort. Over decades, this repeated association strengthens neural pathways that dampen pain signals. Seniors who have lived with consistent activity often possess nervous systems that are less reactive to minor irritations. Sensations that might trigger persistent pain in others are processed as neutral or fleeting. Balance and coordination benefit from this lifelong relationship with motion as well. When muscles and sensory systems remain engaged, the body maintains stability and alignment. Good alignment distributes physical forces evenly, preventing the localized stress that can lead to joint degeneration or muscle strain. Seniors who move regularly tend to maintain better posture and spatial awareness, reducing the risk of small injuries that can evolve into chronic pain. Each step taken with awareness reinforces patterns of efficient movement, preserving structural harmony within the body. There is also a psychological dimension that cannot be separated from the physical. Movement creates a sense of agency and connection with one's own body. Seniors who remain active often develop trust in their physical capabilities. This trust reduces fear of movement, a factor known to intensify and prolong pain. When the mind approaches motion with confidence rather than hesitation, muscles remain relaxed and coordinated. Tension, which can amplify discomfort, finds fewer opportunities to settle into the body. Over time, this calm relationship with movement shapes a nervous system that responds to sensation with curiosity rather than alarm. The most remarkable aspect of this pattern is its simplicity. It does not require intense exercise or athletic achievement. It emerges from ordinary actions repeated consistently. Walking to nearby places, stretching upon waking, maintaining household tasks, or engaging in gentle recreational activities. These small motions accumulate across years, building a body that remains adaptable and resilient. Seniors who reach later life without chronic pain often carry the quiet legacy of thousands of days spent in steady motion. Their tissues conditioned by use, their nerves accustomed to safe sensation, their circulation and repair systems quietly strengthened by movement that never cease to be part of daily life. Within every human cell, a delicate balance determines whether the body moves toward comfort or toward chronic discomfort. This balance is shaped not by dramatic interventions, but by the steady rhythm of nourishment, hydration, and metabolic stability maintained across years. Seniors who reach later life without chronic pain often carry within them a quiet biochemical harmony that has been preserved through simple yet consistent patterns of living. Their bodies operate in an environment where inflammation rarely finds fertile ground, and where nerve pathways remain calm rather than constantly provoked by internal turbulence. Metabolism is not merely the process of converting food into energy. It is the continuous management of thousands of microscopic reactions that sustain tissue health. Each time we eat, the body responds with a carefully orchestrated release of hormones and enzymes designed to process nutrients and maintain balance. When meals are irregular, excessively processed, or dominated by rapid spikes in sugar, this balance becomes unstable. Blood glucose rises sharply and falls just as quickly, creating a biochemical roller coaster that affects every organ system. Over time, these fluctuations contribute to low-grade inflammation, a silent process that sensitizes nerve endings and weakens the structural integrity of joints and muscles. Seniors who avoid chronic pain often maintain a more stable metabolic rhythm. Their eating patterns tend to be predictable and moderate, allowing the body to regulate glucose levels without repeated stress. Stable blood sugar supports the health of blood vessels, ensuring that tissues receive a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients. When circulation remains efficient, cellular repair processes function smoothly. Micro-injuries that naturally occur through daily use are resolved quickly, preventing the accumulation of damage that can eventually manifest as persistent pain. This internal stability acts as a protective buffer, allowing tissues to recover without entering prolonged states of irritation. Hydration plays an equally vital role in maintaining this internal equilibrium. Water is not simply a passive component of the body. It is the medium through which nearly all biochemical reactions occur. Adequate hydration supports circulation, helps transport nutrients, and assists in the removal of metabolic waste products. When the body is consistently well hydrated, joints remain lubricated and connective tissues retain their elasticity. Nerve fibers, which rely on proper electrolyte balance to transmit signals accurately, function with greater precision. Dehydration, even at mild levels, can increase muscle tension and reduce the threshold for pain perception. Seniors who maintain steady hydration create an internal environment where tissues remain supple and responsive rather than brittle and reactive. Nutrient quality also shapes the body's inflammatory landscape. Diets rich in natural, unprocessed foods provide essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that support cellular resilience. These nutrients help neutralize free radicals generated through normal metabolism and environmental exposure. When free radicals accumulate beyond the body's capacity to manage them, they contribute to oxidative stress, a condition that damages tissues and heightens inflammatory responses. Over decades, this process can sensitize pain pathways and accelerate structural degeneration. Seniors who consume balanced diets abundant in plant-based foods, healthy fats, and adequate protein supply their cells with the resources needed for repair and maintenance. Their tissues remain more resistant to the slow wear that often underlies chronic pain. The relationship between metabolism and the nervous system is particularly profound. Nerve cells require a consistent supply of energy to function properly. When blood sugar fluctuates dramatically, the nervous system experiences periods of relative scarcity followed by excess. This instability can make nerve pathways more reactive, amplifying the perception of discomfort. Stable metabolic conditions, on the other hand, support steady nerve function. Signals are transmitted clearly and interpreted accurately by the brain. Minor sensations remain minor, rather than escalating into persistent pain. Over time, this neurological steadiness becomes deeply ingrained, shaping how the body experiences and responds to physical stimuli. Inflammation, often described as the body's response to injury or threat, is profoundly influenced by metabolic habits. While acute inflammation is essential for healing, chronic low-grade inflammation can quietly erode tissue health. Elevated levels of inflammatory markers can sensitize pain receptors and slow the repair of muscles and joints. Seniors who maintain metabolic balance tend to exhibit lower baseline inflammation. Their bodies are not constantly engaged in defensive responses to internal stressors such as excess sugar, unhealthy fats, or dehydration. This calm internal state allows tissues to function without the persistent irritation that often leads to chronic discomfort. Hormonal balance is another dimension of metabolic stability that influences pain perception. Insulin, cortisol, and other regulatory hormones interact in complex ways to manage energy and stress. When metabolic habits support stable hormone levels, the body operates in a state of equilibrium. Excessive spikes in insulin or prolonged elevation of stress hormones can contribute to inflammation and heightened pain sensitivity. Seniors who cultivate balanced eating patterns and maintain healthy body composition often preserve more stable hormonal profiles. Their tissues remain receptive to repair signals and less prone to the inflammatory cascades that can trigger chronic pain. Even the microbiome within the digestive system contributes to this intricate picture. Trillions of microorganisms assist in processing nutrients, producing certain vitamins, and regulating immune responses. A balanced microbiome supports metabolic health and helps control inflammation throughout the body. Diets rich in fiber and natural foods tend to nurture this internal ecosystem. When the microbiome remains diverse and stable, it reinforces the body's ability to manage inflammatory processes effectively. Seniors whose dietary habits support gut health often experience a quieter internal environment, one in which pain pathways are less likely to be chronically activated. What becomes evident through scientific observation is that metabolic balance is not achieved through perfection, but through consistency. Small daily choices accumulate, shaping the biochemical environment in which cells operate. Regular meals that avoid extreme fluctuations, sufficient water intake, and a preference for nutrient-dense foods create conditions where tissues can maintain integrity across decades. The absence of chronic pain in many seniors reflects not a single protective factor, but a sustained internal harmony. Their bodies have spent years operating within stable parameters, allowing repair mechanisms to keep pace with wear, preventing the escalation of minor irritations into persistent suffering, and preserving a physiological landscape in which comfort becomes the natural state of being. The human body does not separate emotional experience from physical sensation. Instead, it weaves them together through shared pathways of nerves, hormones, and subtle electrical signals that travel continuously between brain and body. Over the course of a lifetime, this ongoing dialogue shapes how discomfort is perceived, processed, and remembered. Among seniors who reach later years without chronic pain, one of the most consistent patterns is not simply physical health, but emotional regulation, the capacity to experience stress without becoming consumed by it, to feel deeply without remaining trapped in prolonged tension. This emotional steadiness gradually conditions the nervous system to remain balanced, preventing the hypersensitivity that often underlies persistent pain. When a person encounters stress, whether emotional or physical, the body responds instantly through the activation of the stress response system. Hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline are released, preparing muscles to contract, the heart to beat faster, and attention to sharpen. In short bursts, this response is protective and necessary. It allows the body to adapt and respond to challenges. However, when stress becomes chronic, the nervous system remains in a prolonged state of alertness. Muscles stay subtly tense, breathing becomes shallow, and inflammatory processes begin to increase. Over years, this state of constant vigilance sensitizes pain receptors and reduces the body's ability to repair itself efficiently. Seniors who rarely develop chronic pain often exhibit a different relationship with stress. Their nervous systems learn to return to baseline more quickly after periods of tension. They may still experience life's difficulties, losses, and uncertainties, but their internal responses do not remain locked in a prolonged stress cycle. This capacity for recovery is sometimes called emotional resilience, and it has measurable biological effects. Lower baseline levels of stress hormones reduce inflammation, improve sleep quality, and support more efficient tissue repair. In this calmer internal environment, the body does not remain on constant alert for danger, and pain pathways are less likely to become chronically activated. The brain plays a central role in this process. It constantly interprets signals from the body and determines whether they represent threat or safety. When emotional stress is high, the brain becomes more vigilant, scanning for potential harm. Minor sensations that might otherwise pass unnoticed can be amplified and interpreted as warning signals. Over time, this repeated amplification can strengthen neural pathways associated with pain, making them more easily triggered. Conversely, when emotional regulation is strong and stress is managed effectively, the brain interprets bodily signals with less urgency. Sensations are processed calmly and accurately, reducing the likelihood that they will be reinforced as chronic pain. Social connection contributes significantly to this protective effect. Humans are inherently social beings, and supportive relationships help regulate the nervous system. Conversations, shared experiences, and emotional support reduce feelings of isolation and lower stress hormone levels. Seniors who maintain meaningful social bonds often exhibit better emotional stability and lower rates of chronic pain. Scientific observation suggests that positive social interactions stimulate the release of oxytocin and other calming neurotransmitters, which counteract the effects of stress hormones. This biochemical shift promotes relaxation in muscles and reduces the inflammatory processes that can contribute to persistent discomfort. Emotional expression also influences the body's internal state. Suppressed emotions can manifest physically through increased muscle tension and heightened nervous system sensitivity. Over decades, unprocessed stress or unresolved emotional strain may contribute to chronic patterns of tension that eventually translate into physical pain. Seniors who develop healthy ways to express and process emotions, whether through conversation, creative activities, or quiet reflection, prevent this accumulation of internal strain. Their nervous systems remain more flexible, capable of responding to challenges without becoming locked into patterns of prolonged tension. Breathing patterns provide another subtle link between emotional regulation and physical comfort. Under stress, breathing often becomes shallow and rapid, signaling the nervous system to remain in a state of alertness. Over time, this pattern can contribute to muscle tightness and reduced oxygen delivery to tissues. Seniors who cultivate calm breathing, whether consciously or through relaxed daily routines, send continuous signals of safety to the brain. Slow, steady breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation, digestion, and repair. This physiological state counteracts inflammation and reduces the likelihood that minor discomfort will evolve into chronic pain. The perception of control also shapes the relationship between emotional health and physical sensation. Individuals who feel capable of influencing their circumstances tend to experience lower stress levels than those who feel helpless or overwhelmed. Seniors who maintain a sense of purpose and agency, even in small daily decisions, often demonstrate greater emotional balance. This sense of control reduces the intensity of the stress response and supports a calmer nervous system. Over time, this calmness becomes embodied, reflected in relaxed muscle tone, balanced hormone levels, and a reduced tendency toward chronic discomfort. Mindfulness and reflective awareness contribute further to this protective pattern. When attention is directed toward the present moment with acceptance rather than resistance, the nervous system shifts away from defensive patterns. Seniors who practice mindful awareness, even informally, often experience lower levels of perceived stress. This does not eliminate physical sensations, but changes the way they are interpreted. Sensations are observed without immediate judgment or fear, preventing the escalation that can reinforce pain pathways. Neuroscientific research suggests that such awareness can alter brain activity in regions associated with pain perception, reducing sensitivity over time. Over the span of decades, these emotional and psychological patterns shape the body as surely as physical habits do. A nervous system that spends more time in states of calm recovery than in prolonged stress maintains healthier tissues, balanced inflammatory responses, and stable neural pathways. The absence of chronic pain in many seniors reflects this long-term equilibrium between emotional experience and physiological response, a quiet integration of mind and body in which stress is acknowledged but not allowed to settle deeply into the tissues, where the nervous system learns again and again that it can return to safety, where each cycle of tension is followed by release. where resilience becomes not an abstract concept, but a lived biological reality woven into the rhythms of everyday life. Sleep is often described as a passive state, a simple absence of wakefulness. Yet within the sleeping body, a remarkable level of activity unfolds. Beneath closed eyes and quiet breathing, the brain and body enter a coordinated cycle of restoration that shapes how tissues repair, how inflammation is regulated, and how the nervous system interprets sensation. Seniors who move through later life without chronic pain frequently share one subtle but powerful habit. They protect their sleep with quite consistency. Over decades, this nightly restoration becomes a biological shield, preserving tissue resilience and preventing the slow accumulation of discomfort that many associate with aging. During deep stages of sleep, the body enters a phase of cellular maintenance that cannot be replicated during waking hours. Growth hormone is released, stimulating the repair of muscle fibers and connective tissues that experience microscopic strain throughout the day. This process does not require intense physical activity to be beneficial. Even ordinary movements create small areas of wear that must be restored. When sleep is sufficient and consistent, these repairs occur efficiently, allowing tissues to maintain strength and elasticity. In seniors who regularly achieve deep sleep, this nightly restoration prevents minor structural damage from accumulating into chronic sources of pain. The nervous system also undergoes recalibration during sleep. Throughout the day, sensory information flows continuously from the body to the brain, including signals from muscles, joints, and internal organs. Some of these signals represent true strain or injury, while others are harmless fluctuations in sensation. During sleep, the brain processes and organizes this information, filtering what is important from what is not. This process helps maintain an accurate interpretation of bodily signals. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient, this filtering becomes less effective. The brain may begin to amplify minor sensations, interpreting them as threats. Over time, this heightened sensitivity can contribute to persistent pain. Seniors who maintain healthy sleep patterns preserve the brain's ability to interpret sensations calmly and accurately. Inflammation, a key contributor to chronic pain, is also deeply influenced by sleep quality. While inflammation is a necessary component of healing, excessive or prolonged inflammatory activity can irritate nerves and damage tissues. Research consistently shows that inadequate sleep increases levels of inflammatory markers in the bloodstream. This creates an internal environment where tissues remain slightly irritated and more prone to discomfort. In contrast, restorative sleep helps regulate immune responses, keeping inflammation within healthy limits. Seniors who sleep well often maintain lower baseline inflammation, allowing their bodies to repair and function without persistent irritation. Circulation benefits from sleep in ways that are not immediately visible. As the body rests, heart rate and blood pressure decrease, allowing the cardiovascular system to recover from the demands of daytime activity. This period of reduced strain improves the efficiency of blood flow and supports the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to tissues. At the same time, metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours are cleared more effectively. Among these waste products are substances that can contribute to inflammation and nerve irritation. When sleep is consistent, this nightly cleansing process prevents the buildup of irritants that might otherwise contribute to chronic discomfort. Muscle tone is also regulated through sleep. During waking hours, muscles maintain a certain level of tension to support posture and movement. Prolonged stress or fatigue can cause this tension to increase, leading to stiffness and soreness. Deep sleep allows muscles to fully relax, releasing accumulated tension and restoring flexibility. Seniors who experience regular, uninterrupted sleep cycles wake with muscles that are more supple and responsive. Over years, this nightly release of tension prevents the development of chronic patterns of tightness that can lead to persistent pain. Hormonal balance, essential for tissue health and pain regulation, depends heavily on sleep. Hormones that influence appetite, metabolism, and stress are synchronized with the sleep-wake cycle. Disruption of this cycle can lead to imbalances that affect inflammation and nerve sensitivity. For example, inadequate sleep may increase cortisol levels, keeping the body in a state of mild stress even during rest. This prolonged stress response can heighten pain perception and slow healing. Seniors who maintain regular sleep schedules support stable hormonal rhythms, allowing their bodies to function in a state of equilibrium that protects against chronic discomfort. The brain's emotional centers also benefit from restorative sleep. Emotional experiences that occur during the day are processed and integrated during nighttime rest. When this process is incomplete due to insufficient sleep, emotional tension can persist within the nervous system. This lingering tension may manifest physically as muscle tightness or heightened sensitivity to pain. Seniors who prioritize sleep allow emotional experiences to be resolved more fully, reducing the likelihood that psychological strain will translate into physical discomfort. Over decades, this integration contributes to a calmer nervous system that responds to sensation without excessive reactivity. Environmental and behavioral factors shape sleep quality in subtle ways. Exposure to natural light during the day helps regulate circadian rhythms, signaling the body when to feel alert and when to rest. Evening routines that reduce stimulation, such as limiting bright screens and allowing the mind to settle, prepare the nervous system for restorative sleep. Seniors who maintain consistent sleep environments and schedules reinforce these natural rhythms. Their bodies learn to anticipate rest at certain times, making it easier to enter deep, restorative phases of sleep. This predictability strengthens the body's internal clock, ensuring that repair processes occur with reliable regularity. Even brief disruptions in sleep can influence pain perception. A single night of poor sleep can lower pain tolerance and increase sensitivity to discomfort. When such disruptions become frequent, the nervous system adapts by becoming more reactive. Seniors who protect their sleep reduce these fluctuations, maintaining a stable threshold for pain perception. Their nervous systems remain less prone to overreaction, and minor sensations are less likely to be interpreted as significant threats. Over years, this stability becomes embedded within neural pathways, shaping how the body experiences and responds to physical sensations. What becomes evident through careful observation is that sleep acts as a nightly reset for nearly every system involved in pain regulation. It restores tissues, balances hormones, calms the nervous system, and regulates inflammation. Seniors who maintain healthy sleep patterns accumulate the benefits of thousands of nights of effective restoration. Their bodies carry the imprint of consistent repair and recalibration, creating a physical state in which discomfort is less likely to persist, where tissues remain resilient and nerves remain balanced, where the quiet rhythm of nightly renewal continues to support comfort and mobility long into later life, where each cycle of rest prepares the body to meet the next day with tissues restored, signals clarified, and systems aligned in a state of gentle equilibrium that continues to unfold with every uninterrupted night of restorative sleep moving through the body like a slow and patient current that nourishes cells, calms neural pathways, and sustains the delicate balance upon which lasting physical comfort depends as the night deepens and the body continues its silent work of renewal within the steady rhythm of breathing and the subtle pulse of circulation flowing through muscles, joints, and nerves in a continuous pattern of restoration that quietly shapes how the body will feel upon waking and throughout the unfolding years of later life within a physiology that has learned to trust the healing power of consistent and undisturbed rest within the long continuum of aging and adaptation within the human body's remarkable capacity for repair and recalibration within the silent architecture of sleep that continues to support every cell and system in its ongoing effort to maintain ease of movement and freedom from persistent discomfort within the living structure of the aging form. The experience of pain is not created solely in muscles or joints. It is constructed within the brain through a complex interpretation of signals that arrive from every part of the body. These signals are shaped by memory, expectation, attention, and belief. Over decades, the brain develops patterns of interpretation that determine whether a sensation is perceived as threatening or neutral. Among seniors who move through life without chronic pain, one of the most striking patterns is not merely physical resilience, but a refined relationship with perception itself. Their brains have learned to interpret bodily sensations with calm neutrality rather than alarm. And this subtle shift in interpretation influences how the nervous system responds to even the smallest signals. Every sensation that travels from the body to the brain passes through networks designed to detect potential danger. This system evolved to protect survival, allowing humans to respond quickly to injury or threat. However, the system does not operate purely on physical input. It is influenced by prior experiences and emotional associations. If the brain repeatedly interprets certain sensations as harmful, it strengthens neural pathways that amplify those sensations. Over time, this reinforcement can transform minor discomfort into persistent pain. Seniors who avoid chronic pain often possess nervous systems that have not been conditioned to overinterpret these signals. Their brains receive sensory information without automatically categorizing it as a problem that demands urgent attention. Attention itself plays a powerful role in shaping perception. When attention is focused intensely on bodily sensations, the brain allocates more neural resources to processing them. This heightened focus can increase the perceived intensity of discomfort. Seniors who maintain diverse interests, hobbies, and social engagement naturally distribute their attention across many aspects of life. Their awareness is not confined to physical sensations alone. As a result, minor aches or fluctuations in sensation are less likely to dominate consciousness. The brain learns that such sensations are part of the background of living rather than central threats requiring constant monitoring. This balanced distribution of attention helps prevent the reinforcement of pain pathways. Belief systems formed over a lifetime also influence how sensations are interpreted. Individuals who view aging as an inevitable decline often anticipate discomfort and stiffness. This expectation can prime the brain to notice and amplify any sensation that aligns with those beliefs. In contrast, seniors who approach aging as a process of adaptation rather than deterioration tend to interpret bodily changes with curiosity rather than fear. When a sensation arises, it is not immediately labeled as damage or danger. Instead, it is observed, adjusted to, and often allowed to pass without emotional escalation. This absence of catastrophic interpretation prevents the nervous system from entering defensive patterns that can sustain chronic pain. Memory contributes to this perceptual framework as well. The brain stores not only experiences of injury, but also the emotional responses associated with them. If past experiences of pain were met with intense fear or prolonged distress, the brain may become more sensitive to similar sensations in the future. Seniors who have developed coping strategies for discomfort often carry different memories. They recall sensations that resolved without serious consequence, reinforcing a sense of safety. Each time a minor discomfort passes without escalating into significant pain, the brain records evidence that the body is resilient. Over years, this accumulation of reassuring experiences shapes neural pathways that favor calm interpretation over alarm. Language and internal dialogue subtly reinforce these patterns. The words individuals use to describe their bodies influence how the brain processes sensation. Describing the body as fragile or damaged can heighten vigilance and sensitivity. Seniors who maintain a respectful and supportive internal dialogue toward their bodies often experience a different physiological response. Their nervous systems receive signals of trust rather than fear. Muscles remain more relaxed, breathing stays steady, and the brain interprets sensory input within a context of safety. This gentle internal communication shapes perception at a neurological level, reducing the likelihood that minor sensations will evolve into chronic discomfort. Adaptability also plays a crucial role in perception. Bodies inevitably change with time, and sensations that were once unfamiliar may become part of daily experience. Seniors who adapt their movements, routines, and expectations with flexibility maintain a harmonious relationship with these changes. Instead of resisting or fearing new sensations, they adjust posture, activity levels, or rest patterns in response. This adaptive approach prevents the accumulation of tension that often accompanies resistance. The nervous system learns that change does not equal danger. Each successful adaptation reinforces neural pathways associated with safety and competence, reducing the risk of chronic pain development. The brain's capacity for neuroplasticity ensures that these perceptual patterns are not fixed, but continuously shaped by experience. Neural connections strengthen through repetition. When sensations are repeatedly interpreted as manageable and non-threatening, pathways associated with calm processing become dominant. Seniors who have spent years responding to bodily signals with patience and understanding cultivate nervous systems that remain balanced. Their brains do not rush to amplify discomfort. Instead, signals are processed within a context of trust, allowing the body to maintain equilibrium even when minor strains or aches occur. Mindful awareness further refines this perceptual balance. Observing sensations without immediate judgment allows the brain to process information without triggering defensive responses. Seniors who practice even informal forms of mindful attention often demonstrate lower sensitivity to pain. They notice sensations as transient events rather than permanent conditions. This perspective prevents the formation of persistent neural loops that can sustain chronic discomfort. The nervous system remains flexible, capable of responding to genuine injury when necessary, while allowing ordinary fluctuations to pass without escalation. Over decades, these perceptual habits become deeply embedded within the nervous system. The absence of chronic pain in many seniors reflects not only healthy tissues, but also a brain that has learned to interpret bodily signals with wisdom and restraint. Sensations arise and fade within a landscape of calm interpretation. The nervous system remains responsive without becoming reactive, attentive without becoming alarmed, engaged with the body without becoming dominated by it, continuing to process each signal within a context of safety and balance that has been cultivated slowly across years of experience and reflection within a brain that has learned to see sensation not as an enemy, but as information moving quietly through the living network of the body and mind within an ongoing dialogue that continues to shape perception and physical comfort through every stage of aging within the subtle and ever-changing relationship between awareness and sensation as it unfolds across time and experience within the enduring adaptability of the human nervous system as it continues to respond and adjust within the flow of daily life and the steady passage of years within the living awareness of the body that continues to perceive and interpret sensation within the evolving patterns of thought and experience that quietly shape the way comfort and discomfort are felt and understood within the silent architecture of perception and neural interpretation that continues to guide how the aging body experiences itself within the unfolding present moment and within the ongoing continuity of lived experience that remains in motion within the brain and body together within the gentle and continuous process of perception and response that continues to unfold within the quiet rhythms of human awareness and sensation moving together through time and experience without settling into patterns of persistent pain within the ongoing adaptability of the living nervous system that continues to interpret each signal within a context shaped by years of calm observation and balanced response within the subtle and enduring harmony between mind and body as they continue to move together through the unfolding journey of aging and awareness within the human experience that remains open and responsive within. Each passing moment and sensation moving through the living system of perception and response within the continuous and evolving awareness of the self within the body and within the quiet and steady presence of sensation as it continues to arise and transform within the ongoing rhythm of life and consciousness within the aging human form, as it continues to experience and interpret the world through the delicate balance of perception and physical sensation within the ever-present flow of neural activity and embodied awareness that continues to shape how comfort and discomfort are experienced within the living continuity of human existence.